Hey everybody, and welcome to Salt on the Road. Literally on the road. We are driving. If you couldn't tell, we're in the car. I guess that's pretty obvious. And here we are driving around Colby's neighborhood.
Yes, because we're visiting Colby, and it was like, it really is just way too hot to go sit outside and do Salt. And Brett wasn't finding any indoor venues. So
well, there was a Catholic cathedral, but right when Salt goes, they'd be having mass. And we didn't think that our Salt broadcast would go very well with their mass.
And we didn't think they'd appreciate
They'd
it.
appreciate that.
Yeah, so we stayed home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me, could you keep it down, Monsignor? We're having a broadcast here. But anyway, yeah, we haven't actually seen the neighborhood before.
Yeah.
And he lives on Heavenly Drive, so, I guess that's a good sign. But we did see some of Omaha. We went to as you saw in the video, we saw a little bit of the zoo again. We like going to the zoo, and Aspen's favorite part is the aquarium, so that was fun. And then we're, going to hang out for another day or so, and then we're headed off again to the great vacation Blue Yonder. And but partly, one of the things we took one day, and we went to our old stomping grounds in Lincoln, Nebraska. Well,
yes.
It was for Miranda.
Yes, well, no haircut this time, like last time, but anyways, yeah, I got together with a friend of mine, a writing buddy of mine that we used to get together and go walking and sit in the coffee shop when it was too cold out and such. So she shared with me her latest bit of poetry. And like I said before, I don't usually write poetry or much of it. I never write
she writes poetry.
And, okay, so
you do. You write good stuff.
I don't write it intentionally.
No, she does. No. She's the That's the name of the unintentional poet.
Oh, there you go.
That's what you should be. The unintentional
poet. Because I never write poetry intentionally. If I try to write poetry intentionally, it's like it doesn't happen. I try it, and it's terrible.
Taylor Swift is the tortured poet. You're the unintentional
poet.
Yes.
Definitely unintentional. So she, like I said, she shared with me her latest piece of poetry, which I actually really liked. It was actually only 3 lines long. I thought she was just telling me the first sentence, and so I'm sitting there waiting for the rest of it. And then she showed it to me. I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. But yeah, so I went ahead and shared with her my latest bit of unintentional poetry.
Are you going to do it?
Oh, you want me to read them the whole thing?
Yeah, read the thing.
Okay, it's not particularly long, so if
but
you...
it is good. I like it.
And I borrowed heavily from Bible verses for the last part anyways.
Listen, a lot of people do that, so that's good.
Yeah, so this was actually just a thought, like, I was having one morning, like how do I follow Jesus better or more closely, or how, to live like Jesus would want me to live, right? Okay, so I'm going to be a joy seeker and not a judgment maker. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. His grace is sufficient for me. God's little lamb, the one who sleeps in his arms and lives in his green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. I have nothing to fear. I will let the love of God carry me down the river of joy, full of peace and strength. And the love of God never ends. So
I like that.
Yes, I do like it too. It just seemed more personal because it was my anyways, yeah.
A joy seeker, not a judgment maker.
Yes, a joy seeker, not a judgment maker. Because it's so easy to be judgment makers rather than joy seekers.
I mean, everybody. I mean, we slip into judging. I mean, all the time. It's just kind of a natural thing. A lot of times you have to make judgment calls here and there.
Well, yeah.
But it's so easy to just start snapping like, get on my way, loser. I'm in a hurry. What's wrong with you? And, we so easily start into, everybody else is doing it wrong. I'm the only one doing it right.
Yeah, so my friend said, she's like, you know what? She says that's true. Because when she's at work and she's on break, sometimes she'll walk in the break room and the other coworkers in there are just all judging and complaining about somebody else, right? And it doesn't really create a happy atmosphere. And
no,
then,
it does not.
No. And then, sometimes we have a couple Aspens friends who get in the car, and I shouldn't say the whole back seat. Aspen avoids that, and now it's making them feel like, well, maybe I shouldn't do that.
I get a whole bus of them. Like I was teaching over at the academy, and I would take the kids back and forth in the bus, and especially when I had a bus full of freshmen. The drama team was mostly girls. We had 3 guys, Aspen, 2, 3, and you would get a lot of that. You would get a lot of. As soon as the door was shut and we started going, oh my gosh, they started in on, did you see so and so?
Yeah, that's definitely what it sounds like.
Every day.
Yeah. And just for personal experience, because like I said, I'm hardly innocent of judging and complaining and such. And so, take for instance, went to visit a new church today, and because it's actually fun to see how other churches do things.
It is. It is fun.
It was a pretty nice church. We enjoyed that.
Yeah. Used to be in the day, well, this is before Miranda knew me, when I was traveling around and young, single, and foolish, sometimes on Sabbaths I would go into churches and I would pretend I wasn't an Adventist and I wasn't a Christian. I was just, wow, what's going on in here? And just see how people reacted. It was fairly entertaining. But it was interesting to see the different styles of churches and different personalities of churches. But you're right. You go in and you think, well, this isn't my church. I wonder why do they do things this way? Why don't they sing this song? Why are they this? Yeah.
Yes. Well, I have to hand it to this church for starters. Their greeters were top notch.
They were nice. Yeah.
They were very good greeters.
We've been to a few churches where there were no greeters.
Well, there's kind of either no greeters, or there's no greeters because they're busy talking to each other,
yeah,
and not greeting the people. So
we go into a new church and they're talking to each other. And you're like, excuse me, can I have a balloon? Like, I'm having a conversation here. And I'm like, okay, never mind.
Yeah, sometimes you really do need help finding someplace.
Exactly. Yeah, once we're totally lost and no one to tell us where is everything. Yeah.
So, anyways, like I said, these greeters were just top.
Yeah, they were nice
greeters. Yeah. And so, but you sit down and it's so easy to judge, like, say, special music or what the pastor might be having to say or his presentation of it or something like that. And honestly, I did start doing that, and then I said, wait 1 second, Miranda, that's not how you want to live. And of course, I repeated that phrase to myself. I will be a joy seeker and not a judgment maker. And so, of course, I asked God to help me with that. And it was much more peaceful to just sit there in my seat and enjoy the service for what it was, rather than picking it apart. And I do have to say that it was a very good sermon today, and he was spot on in what he was talking about.
See, mine is in theater. If I go see a play, I can't just sit there and enjoy it anymore. I'm ruined. I'm always like, well, why did they do that lighting? Well, they should have done that line different. Man, that blocking is really, I would have totally changed that, and it's very hard to do what you just said for me in a play, to just sit there and, because I can't help, I'm just constantly analyzing. It's very difficult.
Yeah, but it's, yeah. So,
I need to be a joy seeker in the theater.
Yes, you do, and then you would actually enjoy the play.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't be perfect, but you enjoy it.
I would enjoy it. Okay.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
Yeah. So another place that I used to really suffer from mentally complaining and judging others was the moment I'd walk into my kitchen, and immediately I would just start this negative cycle of judging.
Are you judging me because of the way I put stuff in the dishwasher?
No, it had nothing to do with that. Well, It's not as though I never judged things like that. No, it wasn't even how he put stuff in the dishwasher. It was more like where he put it after it was washed.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
it just something makes sense to me and it doesn't to you. Although I've gotten to, I think I've learned most of the way you like things. Like, I know where the big spoons go instead of the, serving spoons and everything. And
yeah.
I have learned.
Yes. But anyways, it's very helpful when you go to look for your dishes and you find them in the place that you expect them to be.
Yes.
But, when I can't find them or I find them someplace else, I just tell God that I'm thankful that I have a husband that puts away the dishes.
It's like a little Christmas present. Look what I found. in the wrong drawer.
Until I need to stir a pot
Yeah,
or
until you
some
need
such
to
thing
stir,
with
that's
a
true.
certain spoon,
Yes.
and then I
This
can't
is
find
true.
it. So
I'm working on it.
anyways, with practice and turning it over to God and asking for His help and such like that, eventually, and it's been a journey, eventually you do it far less often, particularly if you start to think about it before you walk into the kitchen. And sometimes the kitchen becomes a place like that God is there, and it just becomes a special little time while you're fixing your meals and washing your dishes and such like that.
Yeah, I think breaking habits is a lot like that. We should be a little more gentle with ourselves, and we want to break a bad habit or do something different. It's a process. You may not be great at it to begin with, but the more you do it, the easier it gets, or the better it gets. And
right,
it's a journey.
And to just keep going back. I know I mentioned this once before, but I said once that I'm really faithful. I really am. Do you know why? Because as long as I remember it, every time I mess up, I just go back. Just go back. Just keep going back. Just keep going back. That's part of being faithful in your relationship with God, is when you mess up, just recognize the fact and get up, accept the forgiveness of God, and go back.
Yep, that's good advice.
Yeah, instead of don't waste your time
Berating
yourself and beating yourself up, because God did not create you to beat yourself up. He just didn't. Didn't. God loves you. God loves you, and He did not create you to treat yourself like that. If you're not supposed to be judging others and complaining about them and such like that, then why should you do that to yourself? Recognize that, I shouldn't have done that. I wish I wouldn't have, but I am back to seek more of the power of God at work in my life.
And that's kind of like, we've said this before too, God's more interested in our reaction than our actions, and how we react to our own failures is important, because we're going to mess up, we're going to have, failures, and the failing doesn't matter. It's what do you do afterwards? And, that's one of the things about that verse we've talked about before, that perfect love casts out all fear. That's because God doesn't care how bad you screw up. It's that you keep coming back, and knowing that no matter what, when you come, He's always going to accept and love you, because perfect love casts out all fear. So there's no fear to ever go back to God, no matter how bad you messed up.
Yeah, and the only reason we may spend some time in extended separation is because we're the ones who didn't go back.
Yeah.
God, hey, you know what? You might go back multiple times in one day, but you know what? He's always like, all right, well, let's go then.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, good advice.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of got off on a tangent there, didn't we?
A little bit, but okay, so in Matthew 7, Jesus tells us to not judge and to take the log out of our own eye before we start poking at that speck in somebody else's. And, honestly, once we get rid of that log in our own eye, we are less likely to actually start poking at the splinter in someone else's, because now we are seeing with the eyes of love and compassion, and recognizing that we ourselves are sinners and not quite so perfect as we once thought that we were. And so when we recognize that and the love and forgiveness that God has given to us, and once He has given that to us, we are to share that with others. It definitely makes for a lot less judging and complaining and poking at the small splinter in somebody else's eye while we can't even see to do that. And so Jesus tells us we are to love God and love our fellow man. And, we've talked about this before, that basically we don't love others because we are too busy judging them. And so for the sake of illustration, let's call the log self. And when we get rid of the self out of our eyes, when we just stop seeing self and how we should be treated and all this kind of stuff like that, when we get that self out of our eyes and we start seeing by the power of love and not the power of condemnation. And I think it was Nehemiah 8:10 that we talked about last week, where it says, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so when we start living out God's joy by His strength, when we choose to be joy seekers and not judgment makers, we're living by the strength of God.
Yep, and it really is, when we spend time condemning other people, condemning situations, judging ourselves, judging others, judging other life, it just perpetuates negativity. And this whole thing of instead of judging others, have compassion for them, love others, understanding that a person's actions, no matter if it's against you or with you, whatever, a person's actions have 90% more to do with them than anything it has to do with us. And sometimes we feel like, oh, this person, did this to me or did that to me or whatever. And really, things people say and do most of the time have far more to do with them than it has to do with us. And when you realize that, it's a little easier sometimes to have compassion. Go, what's going on in your life right now that makes you, angry or upset or sad or whatever? And that's when joy, can take over everybody, and compassion can really heal a bunch of wounds. And it just turns everything around when we, like you say, seek joy, seek love, seek compassion instead of judgment. Which goes along with your point, which is good. Which I think, again, you are the accidental, incidental poet.
Yeah, definitely the accidental poet, yeah. That's for sure. But I wonder now how many times we have circled around this circle of the neighborhood where Colby lives, and I'm wondering how many neighbors are starting to question who we are and what we're actually doing.
Well, on that note, then, we should probably call it quits. So, all right, well, thanks for joining us. We'll be on the road for another couple of weeks or so, and who knows where we'll broadcast from next. So, hope you had a great Sabbath, and we'll see you next time.